Give me a second, just to make sure I'm sharing the right window, and then we can go. So now you could see my screen, right?
Yes, correct.
Perfect. Okay, hello everyone again. Welcome to the session. My name is Katya. I'm really happy to be here today. Thank you so much, Claire, for a warm introduction. I wanted to start the presentation with this amazing image because I feel like it's a great illustration of who I am. I love hiking, I love traveling, being active, but it also communicates my values. I really appreciate freedom, resilience, and curiosity. And I think it's a great beginning of our topic today, mastering storytelling to build a unique personal brand. So let me just say a few words about my background. I'm an independent marketing consultant based in Amsterdam. I'm also an entrepreneur. I actually registered my company last September. And from this week, I'm fully focusing on my business. So we are in the same boat of entrepreneurship. So I know your pains and challenges. I help tech companies scale through growth marketing and LinkedIn social selling. And my true passions are running trainings, coaching, facilitating workshops. I think I've trained more than 100 people in the last 6 months, and it doesn't feel like work. So I also started to teach recently at the Barcelona Business School. So that's also a great experience of being in the university system. Okay, I also checked your backgrounds a little bit. I wanted to know a little bit more about you. I know that we have amazing entrepreneurs, aspiring personalities in the group. I saw that some of you are youth advocates, you build beauty e-commerce businesses, you have edtech startups. Some of you are involved in environmental issues, and the list is not limited to that. So even though we do face different challenges in our business, I really hope that this masterclass will be useful to everyone. So when we work on a business project, it's like going on a hike that I like to do, and probably some of you also enjoy it. Sometimes you can pick the challenging routes, and sometimes you even need some equipment to get to the top of the mountain. And you might need to put a heavy rock on your shoulder, like this person is doing on the image. But that's not the only way to move forward. Actually, there are more relaxing ways to run your business. You don't need to push the heavy rock up the mountain. Imagine if the opportunities were coming naturally to your life, so you could relax from time to time. If you want to be more like the person on the second image that is chilling by the swimming pool, you need to focus on two aspects and master them. You need to do more of personal branding and storytelling. This is what we are going to discuss today. So why the personal brand is so important? In many ways, your personal brand is what makes you memorable. It is your personal brand that helps you to stand out from thousands of people that offer similar services. It's not accidental that I did an image of different brands of water, because we know the product overall is the same, right? The quality might be different, the taste of water might be different, but overall it's a simple product of water. But what makes all these brands special, it's actually their brand, their story they're telling. And that's also sometimes what's driving price overall. So we also know that 84% of millennials trust neither advertisement nor the brands. So millennials buy from people, and maybe people in the group also trust expert opinion, word of mouth a little bit more than advertisement. On this image, you could see Elon Musk dancing, to be specific, at the opening of the Gigafactory in Shanghai. And we know that personal brand of Elon Musk is much bigger than just Tesla. First of all, because he's running multiple important projects, but also because he's so powerful now that his tweet can change the price of cryptocurrencies or shares, which is super impressive. So I wanted to share my personal example as well. I spent 1.5 months in South Africa this winter, and it was really amazing to escape the Dutch gray winter with a lot of rain. And at one point, I learned the word Ubuntu, which means in Zulu, I am what I am because of who we all are. And I know that there are some South Africans on the line as well, and people from Africa, so maybe you heard that word. It's a very powerful philosophical concept that it's inspired me deeply. So I made a post about it. And after that, multiple clients came to work with me, and they were referring to that post, which means that I attracted them not only as a professional, but also as a person that shares the same values with them. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. But first, I wanna start with what personal brand is not. So it's quite a funny illustration. The personal brand is not a better version of yourself. It's not editing your true personality and putting a shiny version out there. It's actually something around the line of being yourself and not the idea of what you think somebody else's idea of yourself should be. So I'll let it sink with you. I know it's a complicated sentence, but I think the challenge here is that the society tells us, be yourself, but what does that really mean? We want to be authentic even if we don't know what that is. And that's the paradox. Rather than searching within, we are trying to match what authentic means to others. And we've turned that inner exploration into a guessing game. So a personal brand is somewhere in the intersection of how you see yourself and how others see you. It determines what people say about you. We can't talk about personal brand without mentioning Simon Sinek's Golden Circle. It's quite a popular TED Talk out there. If you haven't watched it, please go ahead and do so. It's one of the most popular TED Talks of all time. The Golden Circle theory explains how leaders can inspire cooperation, trust, and change in business. So Sinek defines why as the most important message that the individual can communicate. Start with why is how you explain your purpose and the reason you exist and behave as you do. So we'll talk about how to define your why and how and what using the particular example. So there's one person from the Netherlands that I added to the presentation. His name is Wim Hof. He is also known as the Iceman. He's a Dutch motivational speaker, but actually he's an extreme athlete that has been breaking world records through the cold exposure. Like, for example, he was swimming in the Arctic waters. And his motto is, what I'm capable of, anyone can learn, which is super inspiring. So he doesn't think that he's a Superman. He thinks that all of us, we can develop superpowers if we follow his philosophy. So let's look at his example and try to identify the golden circle based on his profile. His why will be empowering people to become superhuman, or to be healthy and resilient, for example. His how is teaching Wim Hof method, cold exposure, breath work, and philosophy. What are his workshops, studies, and lectures? So everything that he does in order to communicate his why. Give me a second. Sorry, I just got a little bit lost. When you try to define your personal brand, you need to focus on 4 different elements. This includes your purpose, your core values, your skills and strengths, and your credibility. So your purpose is your personal why that you saw in the golden circle that I just showed you. Your core values, it's something that motivates you to do the work that you do. And it's also something that is probably easy for you to identify in your personal life. It can be Ubuntu, for example, like it was for me in that example that I brought up earlier. And your skills and strengths is your unique journey and your unique character that you bring to the table. And the credibility is how you find the social proof to actually showcase that it's true. Your personal brand is overall how you position yourself. It's the unique combination of skills, experience, and personality that you want the world to see. And when we translate that to a LinkedIn profile, for example, or a personal website, it could be also any other social page where you position yourself. Imagine that when people are scrolling through your profile, they ask themselves three main questions, and probably they do it really, really quick. So you need to grasp their attention. So the first one is this person useful to me? So it's all about the relevance. If this person is relevant. The second one is this person credible? So it is about the social proof. And finally, the last question is interacting with this person useful to me right now? So that's also sometimes really important. If there is no click, you might not want to engage or add that connection. So Vera, I would like you to open 4 doors to have a great story. So the first part was more about personal brand, and now we're going to move slowly to the storytelling. So imagine that you have diverse keys that all look different, and then you have also different keyholes, and you need to find the match and open the right doors. So this is what we will be doing through covering all 4 topics that you see on the screen. So the first one is all around storytelling basics. I wanted to share a concept of a hero's journey by Joseph Campbell. It's a common story template that involves a hero that goes on an adventure, learns a lesson, wins a victory, and then returns home fully transformed. So that's the really popular framework that was used in Star Wars, for example, in the Odyssey, and also in the modern brand marketing. So it's basically every story you take, there will be probably a hero that goes through this, or there will be one element from that framework. So it's if you want to know just one storytelling model, I think that will be it. So when we translated to social media, you could see the example here. When it's very common that when we position ourselves as heroes, we associate the personal brand with being hero yourself. It's self-promotion, sharing your successes. And to be fair, it does perform really well. And we see it on LinkedIn that still all the success stories, how the person had some resilience, overcame some challenges and so on. That is performing really well. But that's only one of the tactics that you could use for your personal brand. I want you to remember that when you position others as heroes, that's also a personal brand. Here you could see a different example of the post where Francisca is highlighting all the women that she had in her career that supported her. It was done for the 8th of March, the International Women's Day, and she placed all these other people as heroes, and she was playing the secondary role. She was a mentee of them, right? So I want you to remember that this is also personal brand. It doesn't have to be all around you. You can also position your customers, your partners, your team, and that will be also a personal brand. So when we talk about storytelling, we could talk for hours and hours, and we don't have that much time, but I really want you to think about these 5 statements and kind of take them home and think about them. These are one of the key statements that can help you to improve your storytelling. So it's really important to be authentic and relevant, focus on quality and not quantity, use different content formats. Your content is either educating, informing, entertaining, or inspiring. It's really hard to do all the 4. So you need to find your priority and you need to find what you're good at and play with different angles. And finally, you need to focus on the customer's pain points. And we'll talk a little bit about your audience and how it's linked to your personal brand. So I wanted to share one great tool because, of course, we talk about some high-level concepts, and I really wanted to connect it a little bit to the reality and the practice. That's why I integrated some of the tools that I use on a daily basis that help me with my content. So the first one is called Answer the Republic. You can use it for content creation. So it's like Google search, but the way around. Instead of giving you keywords, it's actually formulating questions that people are searching. For example, I was searching for LinkedIn content because this is what my business is about. And then I see all these different keywords and questions that can help me to develop my content. Like, for example, how to create LinkedIn content, what kind of content works on LinkedIn, and so on. So the next tool is about capturing your ideas, because you might have a lot of ideas, and actually I think most people just don't capture them as much. So it's really important that you have some sort of process how you capture your ideas. For example, just checking really quickly, could you hear me well? Because it was a little bit, yeah?
Yeah, all good.
Okay, perfect, thanks.
Yes,
I just saw my
yes,
video
well.
was picking up, so I just wanted to make sure that I'm not frozen. Okay, so I highly recommend you to build a content map. So you could also, of course, create a Word document, or you could write your ideas in your notebook. But what the content map helps you to achieve is that you could create that mind map that will grow around different topics. And that's extremely beneficial if you're running out of ideas for your posts to support your personal brand. So that's one of the solutions out there. So then the next one is, it's actually two tools. One is called Hemingway, another one is called Grammarly. Maybe you used one of them, they're brilliant, especially if you are publishing a lot of content and you just want to do a quick check. The beauty of Hemingway that it helps you to improve your writing and make it more bold and clear. So the app highlights lengthy, complex sentences and common errors. So without having a coach or someone who would revise your content, you can actually improve it in the future. So now we are moving to the other part of content and trying to open another door with a different key, which is knowing your audience. And when we talk about target audience, especially in the business context and also maybe marketing context, we talk a lot about demographics. And I think demographics is something that everybody knows. It's basically your age, gender, location, and income bracket. But also you can focus on psychographics. So what are the personality traits of your audience? What are their motivations, goals, values, and interests, and so on. So there are multiple ways to do it. Of course, you can do some primary research and you can talk to your potential clients, or you can talk to people around you or your followers. But you can also use some great tools that I also wanted to add to the presentation, so you keep them in mind when you develop your content. So the first one is SparkToro. It's a great insights tool. You can check the websites that your audience visits, social accounts that they follow, and hashtags they use. You can also select the location, so it will be very specific for the location of your audience, and you can improve your storytelling and make sure that you use more relevant insights for them. And the final tool that I absolutely enjoy, and you can also test it out from the perspective of testing modern machine learning. It's a Google Chrome extension, and you can do a few screenings a month for free. I think it's 10 to be precise. So it's super easy to install. And by the way, other tools are also free. So it's really easy to get up to speed with them. You just need to create an account, and it's not going to take that much time. So Crystal Knows uses the insights from LinkedIn. So you could screen the profile, and then it will tell you what is the personality of the person, what is the preferred communication style of the person, and so on. So it's really, really great if the profile has some relevant information already. So don't waste your credits that you get on Crystal Knows on people that are not using LinkedIn regularly, just because there is not enough data to create those insights. And of course, you need to remember that it's all machine learning. So also take it with the pinch of salt. And then the final door, I think we're moving slowly to the end of my presentation. Why building your network is a part of storytelling too, and actually a really important aspect of building your personal brand. Because you learn from others, you see what they post about, you can share your conversations on social, and you can also introduce people to each other. So here I just added a cute image I found. I'm not a cat person, but I kind of felt like every time you use cats or dogs, it makes presentation more relevant. So when you build your network, it's really important to focus on three aspects: attention, generosity, and knowledge. So attention can be shown through tagging a connection on a relevant post, commenting on a post, or messaging someone and sharing some valuable insights. Generosity is through sharing useful content. Like, for example, you went to this webinar, it will be recorded. Maybe someone in your network might find it useful, so you could drop a link. And also sharing knowledge, it's sharing your experience and your insights with your network. So those are essential both for networking, but also for building the personal brand. And then finally, why is it important for your personal brand? It's essential that you focus on others when you build your personal brand, and you share some valuable and relatable content. Because what we see quite often, that a lot of people that are building personal brand, they're a little bit trapped in the constant self-promotion, which is definitely a part of it. But they kind of forget that you can also use that to lift others and to highlight projects of others. So just to sum up, the 4 doors that we opened to have a great story, we covered some storytelling basics. We focused a little bit on the ideas generation and research. We discussed how you could gain some insights on your audience and start building your network. So, and where these doors will lead us, probably it's up to you to decide where it takes you. I can share my personal experience with building my personal brand. So I started to invest in LinkedIn maybe 1.5 years ago now. And since then, I discovered my passion for teaching and coaching. It really helped me to find some mentoring opportunities. I actually found that opportunity to teach at the university through LinkedIn. I got some new clients, and I left my corporate job to focus on my business. So that was something that I got at the end of that journey when the doors opened up. So I really wish you to leverage personal brand for your business and learn how to do it, because it's definitely it's going to help you to be more of that person, you know, that was chilling by the swimming pool, instead of the person that is going through a really tough journey just to get all these opportunities. So just to sum up, when we talk about personal brand, it's really important to understand the power of personal brand, be genuine. And I actually wanted to create some slides about authenticity and how to be genuine. And I think it's the hardest thing. So I'm definitely not yet there myself. So I wish you, you know, find that voice that you could have on social and be authentic. You need to also identify your values and the key skills, find your why and translate your why to your profile, and finally tell the story. So I think I'm actually just on time. So I just want to finish it with the quote that your brand is not what you say it is, it's what they say it is. So I would love to have some questions from you guys, and just to hear if it was useful, if it was relevant, if you see the application in your businesses and your projects. So I will stop sharing so I could see everyone.
Thanks so much, Katja. If everyone can give a brief reaction in the chat, the reaction should now be fixed. So I'd love to see some thumbs up, some hearts, some claps if you appreciated those insights from Katja. I see them coming in, so that's great. Maybe Katja, I saw a hand go up from Federico, but now maybe he's put it down. Federico, did you want to ask a question?
Yes,
Okay,
I still have a question. So yeah, first, I'm Federico Perez from the EA chapter in Colombia. Thank you, Katia, for the insightful presentation. So yeah, my question is that you highlight that it's very important to be genuine. And nowadays in social media and even on LinkedIn, you see people share most of the best stuff. So when they get a prize, when they win an award, but sometimes it doesn't look as genuine because many people have setbacks. So what would be the best way of expressing a setback through your social media or LinkedIn without being very pessimistic? So you still want to highlight what was the best out of a situation, but still get like a setback out there.
Great question, Federica. Thank you for sharing. And I think partly you started to give the answer as well. We see that trend emerging quite actively on LinkedIn and also on Instagram, just because we are a little bit tired of constant success stories that are not showcased in the real life. So I do see people sharing their vulnerability. And I think the key to this is to understand that vulnerability is your strength. Showing that you're vulnerable doesn't make you weak. And I think that's something that maybe a lot of people can't accept in that social public space. So as soon as you realize that, you can also position this milestone. And what's really common, I see it as a technique, people say, oh, I lost a job and it was so challenging. And then I had a tough year, but then I found the job of my dream. So that's an easy one, because then you do that hero's journey that I shared earlier, right? That, there was a hero that had a challenge, and it's a little bit of Hollywood story that was a happy ending. But that's a simple journey. I think it's important to learn how to position your setbacks without having that big success at the end. And that's an art, and it's you need to be quite confident and self-aware to do that. That's why we don't see too many people doing that. But if you learn, I think people appreciate it so much because they can relate to your journey. And probably everyone experienced something else, and they like to see that voice out there because they're a little bit tired of just Instagram kind of feed. So yeah, it's really an open question. So if you find a way, please drop me a LinkedIn, and I would love to see how you found a way to do it.
Sounds good. Thank you, Katia.
Awesome.
Thanks, Federico. So the next question we have, I'm just going back up in the chat a bit, is from Ozal. So Ozal, if you'd like to introduce yourself and share your question live, please go ahead.
Hi, Katia, can you hear me?
Yes, I could hear you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for the insightful presentation. It was really found a few tips that would, I know that would definitely help. The question that I have is, so nowadays and I am currently in Pakistan, and I mean, we have a whole different set of religion and culture over here. So when we are expressing our opinions in today's world of cancel culture, we see a lot of, if the opinion is not endorsed by the mainstream media, you see a lot of people just coming to and just canceling all the things that are related to you. So how or what is the correct way of expressing your opinion in a way that will not result in a negative effect on your startup or on your business, but also gets the point out, like there is also a different opinion that should be considered?
Yeah, another very deep and sensitive question. And I understand the challenge, and probably I'm not an expert in how you would manage that communication, just because I think even for super mature PR experts, it's sometimes challenging to position their opinion that is not a mainstream. I experienced that myself now with the Ukrainian war, and I'm totally, against the military actions, but there was this tremendous cancel culture happening to Russia, and I'm Russian originally. So I definitely felt that as soon as you are not a kind of represented in the media space, it's becoming super challenging. And you just need to find a way to, you need to be careful what you publish out there, and you need to see also if it's really important to link your business to that personal opinion that you have. So I felt like I needed to do some posts around it, just because I couldn't stay silent. I was still, against the military actions and so on. But I can imagine that some people might not feel the same way. So it's a very sensitive topic, and you need to find your own balance, and learn how to do it. So there's no easy answer to answer that question. No.
Thanks, Katya. Ozal, I hope that has answered your question. That's a very tough one that you've
Yeah.
I mean, if we look at like even some of the best celebrities and, politicians, even they are still making missteps in this regard. So it's an ongoing struggle.
Exactly.
So I have another question here from Adunya. Adunya, if you'd like to open your mic and ask your question and also introduce yourself, please go ahead.
Thank you, Claire. I'm Adunya Haile. I'm the co-founder of Haile Wago Integrated Farm and consultant. In fact, my question is, and thank you, Katya, also for your awesome presentation. My question is, in fact, I have gone through my profile and via my experiences to develop my LinkedIn profile. So though I developed, the profile, I haven't got the expected clients, especially with regard to my consulting firm business. So how should I approach, I may share the link to you via the chat room, and how should I, go through my profile to revisit it and to, update it more so that I will reach more clients. Thank you.
Yeah, if it's useful, I have a really nice checklist that you could use when you develop your profile. So I can share it with everyone in the group. It's relevant for LinkedIn, but probably some of the key ideas, they are also applicable to other social networks. But it gives you a step-by-step guide, what to pay attention to when you develop your headline, when you select the background image, and so on. So I hope that will be helpful, because also it's a little bit of very detailed process. So you really need to sit down, book maybe 2 or 3 hours, and just to maybe go through that checklist and see that all the elements are there for your LinkedIn profile.
Great, that would be excellent.
Thank you. Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. We'll look forward to sharing that with everyone after the session today. So I have another question from Samuel. Samuel from Kenya Road Stores. Samuel, would you like to go ahead and unmute your mic? Otherwise, if you prefer, I can also ask your question. I know sometimes internet is an issue. Maybe he's dropped off, but I think it's a good question, so I can go ahead and ask it. He mentions that he runs a tours company, and he's not sure how to strike the balance between his personal brand and his company brand. And he says he hasn't really built, this personal brand up. So how do you manage those two sides, those two assets, let's say?
Yeah. That's great. I think when you build your personal brand, you need to be aware of that it should be inclusive of all the products that you're working on, because now maybe you have one business, but then tomorrow you might open up a different business. So it has to be inclusive. And let's say it will be a little bit challenging if today you're saying that you're building a vegan, like some sort of vegan product, and then tomorrow suddenly you will be I don't know, posting something about the restaurant that was serving great steaks. So you need to be consistent. If you have multiple projects, I think they need to be in the same niche. So yeah, and to be honest, also the businesses change, but the personal brand stays out there. So it's really important that even if your business career evolves, things that you already mentioned or posted, it will be still relevant because that's driven by your values, it's driven by your experiences. So I would still try to keep it a little bit separate.
Great, thank you. So next up, I have a question from Kurt Lee. Kurt, would you like to ask your question directly? If so, go ahead.
Oh yeah, hi.
Go ahead.
Hi. So hi Katya, I have a question here. So I've asked about the process because you were sharing some tools, and I'm trying to figure out how you could use that effectively. So yeah.
I think you will use it effectively if it's relevant for you in that particular moment in time. I noticed that with this particular tool, sometimes you remember, oh, I've seen something, but then you don't use it straight away. So I would recommend to keep it somewhere in your notes. So I'm happy to share also up to this presentation the tools that I mentioned and in which context they were mentioned. So I think as soon as you have a relevant project and you start applying, new knowledge and using those tools, it will be much easier because they will be just spot on. And sometimes you just probably work on something else and you might not need this exact tools. So yeah, I highly recommend to just keep track, and maybe in the future when you need them, then you will use them effectively. Does it answer your question?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. So yeah,
it just depends what is your problem. Like if you want to go a little bit more in depth, you need to tell me what you're working on, because it's a little bit hard to, you will have a different set of tools depending on your project.
I see. Yeah. Thanks, Katya. That really helped.
Thank you. Good question.
And maybe also, Katya, you can share your LinkedIn profile, and then Kurt, if you want to connect with Katya for a follow-up, for more in-depth, we can also facilitate that. So lots of questions coming in, which is great. So we have another one from Thomas Ameke. Thomas, would you like to go ahead and unmute yourself? Okay, maybe I can go ahead.
I think you read a bit in a noisy place.
Go ahead, Thomas.
I think I'm sorry, I'm a bit in a noisy place. I kindly beg you read. Thank you.
Okay, sure, no problem. So Thomas asks or says, I have hard challenges showing interest to connect with inspirational individuals on LinkedIn. Most of the time when I reach out to them, I don't get attention. Even sometimes my connections are not accepted. Maybe you could share some guidance, Katya, on how to connect with people you don't know on LinkedIn to build your network.
Yeah, great question, actually, because I think a lot of people struggle with that a little bit. So when you send the connection request to someone you don't know, you need to really clarify first how you found that person. So maybe you met that person somewhere, right? So that's an easy one. But if you found that person on the events page, so that's, for example, a very useful opening for me. I could say, oh, I went to that Growth conference, or like I found you on the events page of that conference, even if it was a virtual event. So that's already helping to build trust and also to show that you have something in common. If you go really, really cold without referring where you met and what's the reason of connection, you will probably get the probably people will ignore you, just because first of all, people get a lot of spam on LinkedIn, so don't take it personally. Sometimes people have just multiple pending connections, so it's really important to show that relevance and also express why you want to be connected to that person as well, and that has to be really clear. And then, of course, if your goal is to upsell something, don't do it straight away. It's really important to build some trust first, and have some interactions, maybe share some content, because also, you know, when you meet someone and you start selling straight away, that's just a little bit too early. So I think this is also something I would keep in mind.
Great. No, that's important. I think that not to sell too early, but to build the rapport first. So we have some more great questions coming in. Aisha, would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question directly?
Claire, it's a bit noisy. I'm next to the road, but I can.
That's no problem.
If you can hear me and it's not a problem, then I can go ahead.
We hear you fine if you'd like to go ahead.
Sure. So, Katia, thank you for the presentation. It was great insights shared. Oftentimes, it's about the balance. How consistent should we be with, you know, posting on socials to build a personal brand, but also oftentimes we get in a situation where you know, rotating, you don't know what metrics to use on how to measure if you're building a personal brand for yourself, but also for your business. So really, I just wanted to know in terms of consistency and also what metrics can we use to measure if you're building a good personal brand.
Yeah, great question. I would say, first of all, don't follow just some of the kind of insights that you see. Like, for example, it's a very common concept now that you need to post 5 times a week on LinkedIn in order to get high engagement. If you start from zero, it's very hard to create enough content to post every day. So I would treat it a little bit more as going to the gym. Like if it's your New Year's resolution and you haven't done it before, you know, you need to start somewhere and you need to build a habit. So with posting, I would do exactly the same. So if you commit to once a week, like, to be fair, even though I developed myself on LinkedIn, I still post around 1 time a week, just because I know, to be honest, I don't have that much time at the moment. And if I set myself that, okay, I need to do 5 posts, I will do it for 1 or 2 weeks and then I will give up. So it's really important to have some realistic goals. That's why, you know, you need to understand what's feasible and book some time for it as well. So if you know that you need 1 or 2 hours to do 1 post, you just book it in your calendar, and then very high chances it will happen. And then talking about metrics, some metrics are a little bit of vanity metrics out there. Like, for example, the amount of views that you get on LinkedIn. It doesn't mean that people saw your post, actually. It means that they were scrolling through timeline and this post was there like for a few seconds. So I would focus a little bit more on metrics that are considered kind of core metrics in that particular channel. Like, for example, for LinkedIn, these are comments. Like, comments are the highest form of engagement on the platform. So I would really focus attention on that a little bit more and trying to get more of them. Like, for example, on LinkedIn, you also have the social selling score. So that's something that you could check in the beginning and you could see how it evolved throughout the time. Probably on other networks, yeah, you have amount of following, which is a vanity metric again, because also it's not about how many people follow you, it's actually about how influential you are and how many people are engaged with what you post. So I would really try to identify those metrics as something important for yourself and for your business. So you're not chasing just numbers, but you actually chasing some real goals that will help you with your venture. Yeah.
Great. We got a thumbs up from Aisha on that one. That's a really interesting term. I haven't heard the term vanity metrics before. That's a new one.
Yeah.
Great. We have another question from Aliza. Aliza, would you like to ask your question directly?
Yeah. Hi. My question is actually related to Aisha. So I would like to know more about the concept of quality and not quantity, because it was mentioned in the past slides before. So you mentioned earlier that we shouldn't really focus on vanity metrics like likes, likes, shares, and followers. But I've learned this concept somewhere in the posting, because you mentioned that you can post once a week and some other people would recommend 5 times a week. So I'm asking this question towards that direction. So I've tried with my other ventures that just posting every day. So I would collect data. Is it something related to that? Because sometimes, of course, my posts in social media, I'm actually more active in Instagram, but I'm interested in moving to LinkedIn soon. So first, I would like to ask in the side of Instagram. I hope you could answer that. So for the quality and not quantity, is it still okay to keep on posting every day and just see what kind of content works? Of course, it's gonna revolve around the educate, inspire, entertain. It's something like that. So would it be helpful if, for example, we would be setting aside a content calendar and just still posts every day, or would it be better for us to check because there's insights, right? The most active days.
Of course, yeah.
Yes, should we base it on that, or just for us to just try and see what works for our brand? Because I think what works for one brand may not work for another. So that's my question.
Yeah. No, first of all, thank you so much for your question. And also it looks like you picked up quite a lot of concepts from the presentation, and I'm happy that it's thought-provoking. I would say, first of all the channels are different, right? And they have a little bit different dynamics. I'm not an expert at Instagram, even though like I was trying to build up the page for myself there. It's really, really different drivers, and it's also different algorithms. So when we talk about vanity metrics, I would still look at it not from the perspective that not all the metrics are vanity metrics. It's actually some of them are vanity metrics. Like, for example, on Instagram, when you have 20,000 followers, but actually they were all generated back in 2002, and actually people don't see that content in their timelines. So that's a vanity metric. But overall, you know, your engagement and metrics that you see in your insights, it can be really, really valuable. And answering your question, if you're capable of producing content every day, this is really, really great. And you see that it's performing, I wouldn't slow down, you know, because you're right. When you test different angles and when you test different topics, and maybe you publish also in different times. So it's almost like you're experimenting with your content. So you're learning what's performing better. And next time when you set something up, you actually use these learnings to make sure that the performance is improving. So I think you're really on the right kind of side of things, and you're really excelling in this. And for LinkedIn, I would say probably committing, if you move to a completely new platform, you need to build up from certain posts, because it might be a different tone of voice, it's different formats, it's less visual. Maybe on Instagram, you already nailed this kind of visual storytelling. And on LinkedIn, for example, the most popular posts are normally textual posts. So it's a really, really different approach. So I would try to focus on 1 or 2 posts a week there. And then if you feel like, okay, I'm getting how it's working, I'm getting algorithms, then you can build up and get to the same level as you have on Instagram now. I hope it clarifies a little bit.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you for clarifying the difference of how the content in Instagram and LinkedIn works. That was very helpful. Thank you, Katya.
Thank you as well, Elisa.
Thanks, Elisa. So we have a comment from CJ that being consistent and definitely posting 5 times a week can be quite exhausting. Any thoughts on how you can manage this or how to deal with this?
Yeah, no, it's a really great comment. And overall, this is how I feel as well. I think it's about the priorities, because I also noticed being the entrepreneur, sometimes people get excited, like especially Instagram is like a black hole, right? Like you might just open the app and then a few hours later you realize that you planned doing something constructive for your business, but you've been posting something and like creating content for it. So you need to find the right balance between consistency and having impact, and just also identifying what's important for your business. Like, for example, for my consultancy, I get quite a lot of clients from LinkedIn. So for me, Instagram was taking quite a lot of time to publish something there. I felt like I couldn't really find my voice the same way as I felt like I had it on LinkedIn. LinkedIn was much easier for me. to communicate my story. And at one point I realized that Instagram is not going to bring me clients. Maybe it's good for personal brand, for building the network, but also, to be honest, I do that on LinkedIn already. So it's also deciding for yourself, what is that high impact activity? And I will really think about Pareto rule as well, right? That 20% of efforts bring 80% of results. So for me, Instagram was like 80% of efforts would bring 20% of results. It was just not the best time spent for me personally. And it might be that also some of the channels for you, they work and perform really well. And some of the channels, they might be a little bit challenging and they just taking too much of your time, and you're trying to post 5 times a week, but actually you can achieve the same by posting 1 or 2 times a week. So you just need to find that balance. And I think as we discussed briefly with Aliza, I think looking at your data, experimenting, trying new things, I think that's what help you to understand where you need to be consistent and where actually you can slack a little bit and do something else.
Yeah, definitely. And I actually have a couple follow-up questions based on that information.
Nice.
How long did you use Instagram to come to that conclusion? So basically, how long should our audience members be testing out, adapting, using different platforms, using different strategies before saying, okay, maybe this isn't working for me, let me try something new? What's a good rule of thumb, let's say?
Yeah, well, it's a great question, but it also depends if you do it organically or if you set paid campaigns, because I was doing it organically. So for the organic activities, you need more time to see the results, because also, you know, when you enter the channel, and you also need to understand that all the channels have different levels of maturity. Like Instagram is a super mature channel. It's a very competitive space. It's also a very expensive advertising platform. But for example, you have TikTok that emerged quite recently, and it's not as mature. So it's easier to actually enter the platform and build your following much quicker. So it also depends, I think, depending on your channel, you need to have a little bit different expectation of the time. Plus, depending on if it's paid or organic, it's also going to be paid will be much quicker than organic. So I wouldn't give exact timelines, because it does depend if you are posting regularly or not, and also how much time you actually spend on the platform. It can be just 5 minutes a day, it can be 30 minutes a day. But mainly I think it's being honest with yourself, and also do not be attracted by like something shiny out there, because certain platforms are just shiny, and it's a little bit of feeling I don't know, feeling important, or like boosting your ego or something, and then actually it doesn't bring you any business results. So as soon as you see that, I think it's important to be honest and make that decision.
Yeah, definitely. And we're nearing the end of the session, so I'm just going to throw in 2 more technical questions that came up during your presentation, because you mentioned that you're only posting once a week, really putting in the time. Usually, in your experience, to create a quality LinkedIn post, how much time are you dedicating to coming up with the content and then posting it?
I would say the secret to it would be to keep documenting your ideas throughout the week. So if you have, let's say, some notes on your phone, because we are actually, all of us, we get so many ideas every day and every hour, every minute. The problem is that we'll forget. It's the same thing as with our dreams, right? Like most of us don't remember. So it's really important, if you write it down, it's actually much easier to create the posts. Because, for example, a lot of things can become the inspiration for the post. Like, for example, today's conversation, I think we all gained new insights, and it was a good reason to post something about it. But it can be also really small. It can be something that you saw on the streets. I don't know, I work in marketing, and I saw like let's say big label, and it maybe provoked some thought process, and that might become a topic of the post. So if you have those ideas documented, the actual production might take half an hour to an hour. If you already created some content before, it might be just writing something down, using some tools that I recommended today, like Hemingway, Grammarly, just checking that it flows nicely, maybe designing the image or not. And then, the production itself, if you have an idea, I think will go much faster. I think the challenge here is when you have this blank page problem, right? Like when you don't have an idea and you just sit down and you try to come up with something and then you're forcing it. So my tip would be to really keep track of your ideas in your backlog and keep growing that content map that I showed earlier today.
Yeah, great advice. And one last question before we let you go is just about the hiring of a content or marketing expert within your team. Obviously, everyone here is a young entrepreneur from different levels in their business development. At what time are you advising, the startups and the entrepreneurs that you're working with to look into hiring someone who can specifically take on the role of creating content, managing social media, and really leading on the marketing angle?
Another question that is probably a little bit different per industry, because also content marketing is a strategy, right? It's also something that you could choose, but you can also choose some alternatives. Like, for example, you can invest more in, paid media also include content creation, but it's not, creation of long forms of content like blogs that will take much more time. So I think if you can afford it, it's probably one of the earliest hires that you would do, right? But you need to understand what's the most important for your business. Is it data? Is it content? Is it both? And maybe to think about what is the skill set that that person needs to have, more than if that should be a content creator. Because I think, marketing specialities are so broad at the moment. Do you want to have someone really specialized in certain channel, or you would want to have someone that does everything and that is called T-shape, kind of generalist, right? With one or two specific focus areas. So that's really specific to your business, but I would focus on the problem first. And then you will know if you need to hire someone full-time, part-time, or find a freelancer, and do a little bit of this kind of problem-solving exercise instead of being like, okay, I just want to hire someone full-time and focus on that. Yeah.
Great. Well, I think we can end there. I see lots of people posting their LinkedIn profiles in the chat. Katja, would be great to have your LinkedIn profile in the chat as well. So you can get a whole group of new followers today as well from the youth community. But before we let everyone go, I would love for us to all give a big round of applause. And once again, thank you to Katja for being here, for your time and energy. Very, very appreciated. And of course, we can't let you go without taking a quick screenshot. So I'd love to get everyone in for a photo. I'm going to stop the recording now.